purposes.
I'd like to call to order the May 2nd meeting of the Clearwater City Council and call forward, please, Major Ted Morris from the Salvation Army to lead us in an invocation, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilmember Pogolace.
Let's pray. Our Father, on this, the evening of the National Day of Prayer, we thank you for a country in which we live, in which we can come before you without fear, a place where we have the freedom to worship as we have been given, and we thank you for that blessing, which we never take for granted. God, we thank you for our mayor, for the city manager, and those upon whom the mantle of leadership has been placed for this community. We thank you for those who are here to support the discussion, to be a part of the deliberations. We pray that everything said tonight will be pleasing to you as this city council progresses. For it's in your holy and your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Major, thank you very much for being with us, and if I remember correctly, next Thursday we will be having the annual Salvation Army William Hale breakfast, prayer breakfast at up on Belcher Road. Very good, sir. Thanks again for being here. Let me remind you, please, if you have a cell phone or other device that goes off, to please silence it so that it doesn't disturb the meetings. And again, let me ask that if you have any comments or clapping that you want to make for a speech, that you do not do so. This is not a sporting event. We ask that you give the people who are speaking, whether you agree or disagree, the same courtesy that you would want them to show you if you were speaking and they disagreed with your comments. To my extreme right is our Assistant City Manager, Jill Silverboard, our City Manager, Mr. Bill Horn.
Good evening.
Councilmember Bob Cundiff, and Councilmember Jay Pogolace.
Good evening.
To my left is Councilmember David Albritton.
Good evening.
Councilmember Hoyt Hamilton.
Good evening.
Our City Attorney, Pam Aiken.
Good evening.
And our City Clerk, Rosemarie Cole.
Good evening.
Our first order of business beyond that is to have some proclamations. I'm going to call forward first Chuck Lane from our Economic and Development Department for National Home Ownership Month and his team. Whereas the importance of home ownership in American society impacts neighborhood stability and the nation's economic health, and whereas the City of Clearwater is committed to preserve and increase the level of home ownership in the city and participates in various programs that support initiatives such as home ownership counseling, down payment assistance, new construction, rehabilitation of existing housing stock, and affordable housing. And whereas the City of Clearwater also commends the efforts of its communities, private sector, its developers, lenders, realtors, and nonprofits that are committed to keeping families in their homes and to promoting home ownership in the City of Clearwater. And whereas the Economic Development and Housing Department of the City of Clearwater and its community partners are participating in the 28th Annual Home Ownership for People Everywhere Expo on May the 18th to encourage citizens to meet and speak with housing counselors, lenders, real estate agents, and community resource representatives regarding home ownership. Now, therefore, I, George N. Creticus, Mayor of the City of Clearwater, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2019 to be National Home Ownership Month. Mr. Lane, thank you. Appreciate that. Please go say hello to everybody. Thanks for all your work. Mr. Mayor, starting this one. Oh. Watch your step going over the.
Be careful.
We'll see you Monday. Yeah.
Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you too.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm already here.
Yeah, be careful, don't trip over.
Thanks for everything.
Yeah.
So if I may,
Council, I forgot to introduce everybody behind us. I'm going to ask Chuck to go ahead and do that.
so if I may, homeownership is becoming the more difficult thing for people of low to moderate income. So these folks are helping us in the fight. We have Louis Imbody from Neighborhood Home Solutions. We have Linda Byers with the City of St. Petersburg, formerly a city employee, City of Clearwater employee. Jody White, City of Largo, and of course Terry Malcolm Smith in our housing division. So thank you very much.
Thank you for coming all the way. Appreciate it. Thank you. Take care. Yeah, you took the right one. And Dave Porter is going to come forward now from our Public Utilities Department and our Public Utilities Director. Whereas safe, clean, and sustainable water resources are essential to Florida's environment, economy, citizens, and visitors, and whereas water reuse provides a means for conserving and augmenting Florida's precious water resources, and whereas Florida has established the encouragement and promotion of water reuse as state objectives in chapters 373 and 403 of the Florida statutes, and whereas the City of Clearwater has joined with the Southwest Florida Water Management District, the state of Florida and its Florida Department of Environmental Protection, Water Reuse Florida, and other municipalities in encouraging and promoting water reuse and conservation. Now therefore, I, George Crudicus, Mayor of the City of Clearwater, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim May 19th through the 25th to be Water Reuse Week, and encourage every citizen and visitor to become more aware of the need to save our precious water supply and take appropriate steps to conserve and protect this vital resource. Dave, thank you for all the work. Council, the City of Clearwater at the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council earned at least one award at the Future of the Region banquet or luncheon that was held on Friday. And Mr. Hamilton is our representative at that board and was at the luncheon and will be making a presentation.
Well, it was a breakfast, and everybody loves getting up early for those big 400-person breakfasts. But no, it's a pleasure to serve the city as our representative on the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. And for 27 years, the Planning Council has had these Future of the Region awards. The Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council encompasses everything from Citrus County down through Bradenton and Sarasota, including Hillsborough County. So there's a 7-county area, and it is a very influential and very powerful economic engine in the state of Florida, our region. So that being said, we submitted applications, the city did, on a couple different items. Unfortunately, we had an application in or a submission in for our Moccasin Lake project. It did not win this year, but that doesn't mean it can't win in future years. There's a lifespan with these projects that you can submit multiple times. So I'm sure we'll try and get in there in that queue for next year and hopefully be successful. This year, the Capitol Theater was recognized by the Future of the Region, both the city and Ruth Eckerd Hall, for our work on the rehabilitation of the facility and the diverse programming that Ruth Eckerd Hall does in the facility, so that it gives the opportunity to such a large number of people to enjoy the arts and entertainment in such a unique and intimate venue. So because of all that, we were recognized as a recipient of this year's, and we were proud to win it, and we'll find a very appropriate place at the Capitol Theater to put this up on the wall for all to see.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for your work on that committee for us, Councilmember Hamilton. Are there any addition or corrections to the minutes of April the 18th?
Move to be approved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of April the 18th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Anybody from the public wishing to speak? Oh, I know. We're on a fast track,
Tried.
okay? So I just took 2 minutes of your 7.
Quite the challenge, Mayor. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commission members, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I am going to be fairly brief, but I do think it's an important update on our Advantage Pinellas initiative, which is a partnership that we're engaged in with the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority and with Pinellas County, and frankly, all the municipalities to develop a new long-range transportation plan for Pinellas County. And it is really an alignment of strategies to look at how we not only address mobility, but how we address our attainable housing challenges that we have in this county, and how we look at economic development through that lens of affordable housing, transportation accessibility, and land use development. It is the first long-range plan since we merged the MPO and the Pinellas Planning Council into a single unified agency. So this is our opportunity to create a template that reinforces the mission of Forward Pinellas. And the goal is to focus redevelopment through core transit corridors and where stations would exist. And we are projecting the population of the city of Clearwater to be coming to Pinellas County by the year 2045. So that's roughly another 100,000 people. And where are those folks going to go? They're probably not going to go and establish single-family residential neighborhoods, but we have the US 19 corridor, we have the Gateway area, we have a lot of areas where we are preparing for redevelopment to occur. And we need the transportation facilities and the housing in place to support that growth. We have a good framework for that. You may remember Pinellas by Design that was developed right before the recession, about 2005, 2006 timeframe. And we think we have a really strong framework for implementing this countywide, but the recession put some wind against us in terms of implementation, so now we're renewing our effort to work on implementation of Pinellas by Design. When we named this Advantage Pinellas, we thought about, well, what are our advantages? How do we really distinguish ourselves? And we can't plan in Pinellas County like they plan in Pasco or Hillsborough or Manatee County because we don't have unlimited land for development. We have to redevelop. And I started thinking about the 24 cities we have and the compact nature of our county. It lends itself to a more accessible county than any other in Florida. And so our challenge is really how do we connect people in a 10 to 20 minute travel time to the destinations they need to get to on an everyday basis, but then how do we ensure that we're connecting our cities like Clearwater, Safety Harbor, places like that, to the broader region and to each other. So that's really what we're trying to do. Not all of these advantages that I have on the screen are advantages today, but they are advantages that we know they can be if we work on them and focus our energy and our efforts. So we are taking a little bit of a new approach, and it's to link housing and transportation through this initiative. And the reality is that throughout Tampa Bay, most of our residents spend about 60% of their household income on housing and transportation. What would be considered affordable is about 45%. And so that's a combination of factors. And you can see on this chart that if you're in Trinity or up in Pasco County and Wesley Chapel area, you're spending 70% of your income on housing and transportation. If you're in Largo, it's 51% because you're more accessible to everything and you have better availability of services. In addition to that, we have a unique county. We are much more densely developed than our counterparts in the region, and our journey to work, travel time, is much shorter than most people in the region. So we think we have a strategy that could work for infill and redevelopment in appropriate places. Another reality is that we have a pretty strong roadway and trail network. The 3 legs of our transportation stool have done pretty well. We have an award-winning Pinellas Trail network, and it's soon to be a 75-mile loop around the county within hopefully 5 years. And we have good connecting trails, particularly here in the city of Clearwater with the Ream-Wilson Trail. We have spent about $880 million on Penny for Pinellas money on roadway improvements since 1990. The county compared to Hillsborough County and Pasco County, has done a much better job of building local roads to balance state highway needs. It's not all on the backs of DOT in this county. We've done a pretty good job of maintaining our roadways. And we've had for over 10 years now, a penny of the gas tax devoted to technology and intelligent transportation systems, or traffic signal synchronization. And as I mentioned, the Pinellas Trail Loop, and this is a map of all the trail network in Pinellas County, and much of that is coming to completion in terms of connectivity. But where we've struggled is a lack of transit investment in this county. And I worked on the first transit development plan in 1990 for PSTA, and our route network has not changed much, and yet we've added 100,000 more people, and we have a lot more ridership on those routes, and the number of trips has increased, but we have not increased the frequency, not significantly weekend or nighttime service, and so we are left with a really underfunded transit system. And what we know is that transit access improves equity and opportunity for economic growth for everyone. USF just recently completed a study that showed a lack of transit availability is the primary driver of the poverty rate in Tampa Bay. So the more accessible we can make transportation, the more opportunity for job training and jobs people who may not even have a high school education have, or people who have a high school education but they want to learn a skill. This is an opportunity for that to happen. And we have a lot of our households that have no vehicles available or are rent burdened in terms of what they're spending on their rent relative to their income. So transit is a direct way of helping address that, along with providing housing of all ranges for the very low income to the professional and the firefighter and the teacher. So we have also throughout our county, as this map shows, a lot of census tracts that have a high percentage of households with no vehicles available. Now, I'm not saying that's the only target market, but if we can at least make our transit system better for that group, we can raise our economic profile in the county. And we went to Indianapolis recently, and I think there's a good model in Indianapolis. They have invested in a series of rapid transit networks to improve their economic growth because the state of Indiana is not growing from a population standpoint, so they recognize the 100,000 people in Indianapolis, they need to provide access to jobs and job training. I draw a parallel to Pinellas County. I just mentioned we're going to add the city of Clearwater in the next 25 years, but compared to Pasco and Hillsborough, our growth is very small compared to them. So our strength is really to grow within and to give opportunities for our residents. I'm going to move on fairly quickly. We do have a regional backbone that we can build upon. The Tampa Bay Area Transit Authority, TBARTA, is now initiating in this coming fiscal year a design study of this 41-mile rapid transit link between St. Petersburg, the Gateway area, Tampa International Airport, and on into Pasco County. We will be asked to commit operation dollars if that project is feasible and is implemented. DOT won't pay for the operations. We'll have to do that in our county. But this is a good start to a regional network that we can build on. And we have the Gateway Area Master Plan that is coming to completion in June of this year, where we've got a lot of local government funding partners in DOT. And one of the things coming out of this plan is a single intermodal center in the Gateway area that will be a focal point, a hub for that regional transit network. And we're narrowing that down to about 3 or 4 sites. And tomorrow we're meeting with the consultant to maybe pick one of those sites. There's still some public involvement and outreach, and this plan will be finished around July. I mention that because that is where our high-wage jobs likely are going to grow in greater numbers in our county than anywhere else. And so the Gateway is an economic engine for all of the residents of Pinellas County, regardless of what city you live in. We have outlined a 5-point plan to the Board of County Commissioners and to other local governments. We had a funding workshop that many of you attended back in January. And the first point is to define our premium or priority transit corridors. The second step is to then look at redevelopment within those corridors in terms of housing and economic opportunity. The third point is to establish a dedicated or discretionary funding source to improve transit, not just to keep it alive and not cut routes, but to actually improve it so more people find it as a reliable, reasonable option. And right now, that's just not the case. And then the fourth step is our role as the MPO is to prioritize those corridors to bring in dollars from outside our county in the form of federal and state funds. And we will not prioritize those corridors if we don't have a commitment from the local governments not just to operate the service, but to work with us on affordable, attainable housing in these corridors, mixed-use redevelopment, and complete street connections into the corridors from neighborhoods. And frankly, Clearwater is a leader in this with your US 19 land development changes. So I think you're a great partner in helping us address that prioritization. And then finally, we need to ensure that we have clarity and transparency and performance-based measurement as we go forward. I just want to briefly mention that this is still draft, but the primary highest priority corridors coming out of this draft plan, 34th Street South, and which is also US 19, and we are putting that on our priority list this year because that is a transit corridor ready to go, and that's from the Skyway Marina District up into the Gateway employment area. US 19 North, and frankly, I want that to be a partnership with Pasco County and Pinellas County because we're going to start in Newport Richey and have higher frequency limited stop service into the Gateway Mid-County area. Roosevelt East Bay, US Alt 19 South from the Tyrone area into downtown Clearwater, and then the I-275 regional service that I showed briefly a few minutes ago that T-BARTA is advancing. You do not see on this the State Road 60 Gulf to Bay corridor, but that is one that could easily move into this priority corridor list. We do not see that as quite at the same level of these other corridors in terms of job training and access to job opportunities, but it is a darn good corridor for transit. And if we can get the funding in place, I would seek to advance State Road 60. We do have the Memorial Causeway busway project on our priority list, and we have asked DOT to pause that project so we can get better consensus here in the city of Clearwater. And Jill, you were at that meeting where we had that discussion, a little bit painful, but I think they're on board. And we are now prioritizing a PD&E corridor study for that to resolve some of the challenges we have with just looking at that limited segment on Memorial Causeway Bridge. An example of how we arrived at these corridors is we worked with St. Pete College, Pinellas County Economic Development, and others, and did a lot of data analysis to look in fine-grained detail about how we link workers to workforce training and job opportunities. And this is just an example of the Roosevelt East Bay where about 28,000 people who work in this corridor are coming from somewhere else. They're not living in that corridor, so we need to get them to jobs. And about 15% of the people in this corridor are below poverty. We also are doing a roadway needs assessment in addition to the priority corridors, and we have identified enhancement projects where we are looking at safety and accessibility, but not adding general lanes. And then we are looking at capacity projects where we are considering widening roads or adding new connections or new interchanges. And you'll see portions of US 19, East Lake Road, and Curlew Road on this. And some of this we're looking at in terms of, is it feasible for tolling? We're not saying we like tolls or support tolls, but that may be one way to advance a project. That's a screening method, and we will certainly be back and let you know if any of that is feasible. The County Commission has asked us to look at east-west tolling corridors. But we're also looking at just regular highways. And you know the Gateway Expressway is under construction. I-275 is going to be under construction here in the next year. And we are building a lot of capacity into our network, but we're limited in where we can do that. This is the I-275 corridor, so we are looking at managed toll lanes that will be variable priced in response to demand from the Howard Franklin Bridge, across the Howard Franklin Bridge actually, all the way down to I-375. And we'll also address the lane continuity, the weaving issues that you have on I-275, which will improve safety and capacity in that corridor. And the Gateway Expressway that I mentioned just a minute ago, that is well under construction and expected to be complete in 2022, which will avoid the mess that is 49th Street and Ulmerton Road and significantly relieve some of the congestion on US 19 in that area. And the Howard Franklin Bridge, as I mentioned, 4 lanes are going to continue in each direction, but there'll be 2 new additional lanes that'll be tolled. There's a bike ped trail that's being added to this corridor, as you know, and this is about to go under construction to begin in FY 2020. What have we heard from the public? Well, we had a regional transportation survey with over about 10,000 respondents, and the transit focus scenario scored higher across the region, but even higher in Pinellas County than Pasco and Hillsborough. And the highway focus scenario ranked lowest regionally and in Pinellas even lower than in Pasco and Hillsborough. In addition, we did a survey of our residents, a statistically valid survey of our residents, and they said the biggest barriers to transit is reliability, frequency, and efficiency, but people would say, the majority said they would use it if it was better, and 41% said they would pay more if it was more frequent and reliable. And only 6% said the transit stop and sitting out in the sun and the rain was a problem. The people want a more efficient transportation system. They want the traffic signals timed better. They want lower speeds for safer streets, 57%, and 90% support investing in technology to improve traffic flow. Unfortunately, technology is not going to get us too much more because our roads, largely east and west, are saturated. If you give more green time to the north-south, you sacrifice the east-west and vice versa. But there are things we can do. People want access to destinations. 70% said their ideal neighborhood has shops nearby that they can walk to. And what have we heard in terms of words? I think the public speaks really well and they educate us all the time. I would love to take the buses to places, but they're not quite good enough right now, and that's not just a good value proposition. I would pay more than what I pay for transportation driving myself if I can sit back and relax and not worry about it. And there's just not enough space to build an efficient transportation system to move as many cars as are out there. And a solution is not just one thing, it's a package. It's a bunch of solutions to get to the ultimate. And I think that's exactly what we heard from the elected officials at our January funding workshop. So our next steps are to refine this plan in terms of our capital and operating cost of those transit investments, and really significantly is to align our local plans, priorities, and initiatives for housing, redevelopment, and complete streets. And then we are having a very engaged discussion with the county administrator, Barry Burton, and the county commission. They had a workshop today that sort of evolved into a transportation funding discussion. And I think in the near future, they are going to engage all of the cities in Pinellas County to ask you what your needs are and how that might relate to the gas tax, or maybe going back to the voters with a referendum next year, or other forms of funding. Everything is on the table, but I do believe the county commission is committed to meeting those needs somehow. And my hope is over the summer, by July, we'll have an answer so that PSTA is not forced to cut service, which they just avoided, but now they're going to be back doing it later in the year if we don't come up with some kind of a solution. And that includes raising their millage rate. It includes going to all the cities that aren't part of PSTA. So I do think that there's a wide range of solutions. And that concludes my presentations, but I really thank you for the opportunity to give you a quick overview. There's a lot going on, and I'd be happy to brief any one of you individually if you would like me to do so. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
One.
Mr. Puglace?
So the primary driver is transportation to property. I would be interested in the next top two. Is there, I mean.
Primary driver to poverty?
Yeah, one of the primary, it says one of the slides said it is the primary driver for
Sure.
poverty
Well,
in Pinellas County, so, or
Yeah,
region, I think it
that's
was.
pretty consistent. I think the other one is education. And transportation plays a role in getting people to
Right.
education, right?
Right.
And then daycare and having a caregiver, having two parents in the household. I mean, there's a lot of factors that we don't necessarily control, but transportation is a key driver because accessibility is economic opportunity.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
One of your early slides, Mr. Blanton, if you could go back to, was the map of the county with the corridors in red, I believe.
Yeah, let me see if I can find that one. Oops. I think I know which one you're speaking about.
It's the
This one here?
Yes, sir, I think that's the one.
Yeah. This is just a vision map.
Right. What I'm concerned about when I look at that map is on the western end of the county, from Clearwater to Seminole and the Tyrone area, there's nothing shown. And then in one of your other slides, you made mention of the alternate 19 corridor as being a priority, but it's not reflected on that map. And I was just wondering if you could explain.
Sure. It's a timing issue. This map was developed almost 2 years ago, and it was really just to convey that the unique aspect of Pinellas County is the fact that we have all these cities with a lot of people living around them, and most people align themselves to those focal points in those cities. And be real honest with you. I live in Clearwater, but I live on the east side of Clearwater, on Bayshore, just south of Safety Harbor. I claim 2 cities, and I recreate and spend a lot of my time in downtown Safety Harbor. Gulfport, same way. Tarpon is the same way. Dunedin is the same way. But all of these are destinations that people go to from all over the county. And I think Clearwater has these aspects, and I think downtown can eventually have these aspects even greater than it does today. So it's a strength that Pasco, Hillsborough, Manatee, Osceola, name any other county in Florida, they don't have that. And that's this idea of 10 to 20-minute neighborhoods that people enjoy and can do everything from work, live, play in those neighborhoods. I think that's tremendous. To your point about Alt 19, you may know we have a corridor study going on right now with FDOT. They've come up with some recommendations that are still draft, but we see that as a primary key corridor for redevelopment and good transportation service linking our job centers.
Yeah, because obviously we're much more limited on what we can do there because of the built-out nature of the communities.
Sure.
But I would hope that we don't lose sight of the importance of moving people north and south, as opposed to just, and you look at that map and the emphasis seems to be more east and west.
Yeah, and that's inadvertent.
Okay.
But that corridor there's a lot of medical jobs in that corridor.
Yeah. And then the other point that, I keep harping on, and I know you're probably already anticipating, but synchronized lights. I mean, everybody's telling you that. You even mentioned that we have an extra penny set aside to help do that, but it sure isn't working. And I'm sure that the majority of the people will tell you that it doesn't work. And we've got to do a better job at addressing that one issue.
I hear you. Yep, absolutely.
So, thank you very much for your efforts, your continued work for all of us, not only, affecting transportation here in the county, but the region. We appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
And we look forward to
Thank you all.
continuing to work with y'all. Thank
Okay,
you.
appreciate the time.
Did we take a vote on the minutes?
Yes.
We did,
Yes.
okay. So we can move on to agenda item 6. Anybody from the public wishing to speak to an item that is not on the agenda? If so, please come forward at this time. We would ask that you give us your name. You would have 3 minutes to speak, and make sure that you have filled out a card with the clerk with your name and address.
My name is Christina Carley. I live in Clearwater, and I did give her a card. I'm speaking today about North Ward Elementary School, and I have a prepared statement here, and I think I did give some copies out also. My hope is that North Ward will be protected from the wrecking ball. That's my thrust here. Built in 1915, North Ward Elementary School operated as a fully functional school until it was shuttered in 2009 due to declining population of elementary school-age children in the surrounding area. And per an article in the April 12, 2019 issue of the Tampa Bay Times, North Ward was sold by the school board to the Clearwater City Council for $1.8 million as part of the city's revitalization efforts in the North Marina neighborhood. I was a student at North Ward from 1st to 6th grade, 1956 to 1965. My older sister and also my mother, who passed away in 2017, also attended North Ward School. It's sometimes amazing to my friends when I tell them that all 3 of us attended the same elementary school and that we had the same music teacher, Miss White. It's with fond memories that I recall North Ward and the annual Maypole event, where long, colorful streamers were threaded by us kids into a fabulous, beautiful woven design. It seemed to appear like magic when we stepped to the music around the Maypole. But more than just for the reason of memories, North Ward needs to be preserved as a part of Clearwater's history. It has gone through the First World War, the Second World War, the Cold War, and the Vietnam War. None of the children who attended in the late 50s and 60s will ever be able to forget the air raids, sirens, and being instructed to hide under our desks. But we had confidence that we would be safe at North Ward. The article in the April 12 issue of the paper talked about another North Ward attendee, Jerry Franklin. He walked blocks from his house every day to school, and he said it was like going to a second home. We all have felt that way about North Ward. It just needs to be preserved, not just because of memories of us who attended school there, but it's a symbol of how a school can unite a community, how a school can go on in the face of world wars, Cold Wars, and civil unrest. I submit to you that North Ward should be preserved as a historical building and that it should be protected as a valuable and important part of Clearwater's history. I'm currently exploring an application process for getting North Ward added onto the National Registry of Historic Places as a first step in making sure that North Ward is not sold to the highest bidder for stores, breweries, housing complexes, or condos.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up. Appreciate it. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak to an item not on the agenda?
I haven't given the card. Should I do it now?
You can just give us your name
Okay.
and then proceed
do that.
afterwards.
My name is Shashank, and I'm a resident of Clearwater. And I always come to the downtown Clearwater just for recreation purposes and also work-related as well. So what I really applaud the council and the mayor of the city for the great view you have been doing for the demolition progress of the Harvey View building. And I feel that, it would be great to see the same enthusiasm and progress for the old, the council, the city council as well, the building as well. And I feel, you guys have done a great work keeping the Clearwater community vibrant and the downtown clean and vibrant as well. So I would just like to know what you guys are doing and what's the progress in that area for the demolition progress as well.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak to an item not on the agenda? If not, I will close public comment and move on to the consent agenda, items 7.1 through 7.10. Anybody from the public or council wishing to pull an item off the consent agenda, 7.1 through 7.10? Mr. Poglaze,
I'd like to pull agenda item 7.5, please.
7.5. Motion to approve the consent agenda, item 7.1 through 7.4 and 7.6 through 7.10 then.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda, items 7.1 through 7.4 and 7.6 through 7.10. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 7.5, Mr. Horn.
Authorize a blanket contract with Cintas Uniform Services of Tampa, Florida, in the annual amount of $175,000, $25,000 building and maintenance, $150,000 public utilities for the rental of uniforms, floor mats, and purchase of clothing for May 1, 2019 through April 30th, 2023, in accordance with the Code of Ordinances, Section 2.564(1)D, other governmental bids, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute the same. Mr. Porter.
Good evening, David Porter, Public Utilities Director. Public Utilities and the Building and Maintenance Department utilize uniforms for their employees largely as a safety measure for the work, because of the work that they do. It keeps them safe from contact with biological contaminants and chemicals, and also abrasive substances and things of that nature. We've been utilizing the services of Cintas for approximately 2 or 3 years, I believe it is now. The uniforms have worked out well for us, and we're piggybacking off an existing or a contract with another service. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you have.
Questions for staff on 7.5, Mr. Poglaze?
Thank you, Mayor. I understood the $18,000 additional extension,
Correct.
but after I reviewed the item again a little bit more, I was looking, because since it's an annual contract, it appears to have went up 20% when you do the monthly math. It went up from $12,000 to $14,500. So that's an additional $2,500 each month. Are we getting additional service? Are we getting anything in addition, or is that just the going rate right now of it? It seems like a pretty extensive, a pretty high increase at 20%.
A number of things have increased the cost of buying uniforms. One, we've had more turnover of staff, and every time we have a turnover of staff, we have to issue new uniforms, and they have to, be fit to them and and that type of thing. So having new uniforms generated for more people more often is costing more than we have in the past. We're also switching to a different type of shirt. The shirts we have now are pretty hot. So there's a new shirt that's available that'll allow us, for a very minimal charge, to provide our staff a uniform that's going to work and function the way it should, but at the same time not have the same heat risks that we had previously. And so those are the main issues, and the costs have just risen as well.
Well, I guess the only comment I would make after that is then if it's a 20% increase just to get update and replace employees that have left, since it's only an annual contract, we wouldn't see a 20% increase every year consecutive after that. I mean, this is kind of like a catch-up situation.
Yeah, I mean, where we are right now, reflects what the costs are today and then going forward, right? We don't see it keep increasing each year, no.
Okay.
In fact,
Do we-
if anything, we hope to start seeing it.
Would we ever consider negotiating that as a 3-year contract or anything like that? Or
Well, this is a 1+2.
it's a 1+, my mistake?
Be up to a total of 3.
Yeah, okay.
Total of 3. And then, like I said, it's the normal price because it's piggybacking off the other contract.
Okay.
What we hope will happen is we're correcting the issue with turnover rate. As we correct the issue with turnover rate, then some of those costs will come down over time.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for explaining
You're
it.
very welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody from the public wishing to speak to agenda item 7.5?
Move approval of agenda item 7.5.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 7.5. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.1, Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9262-19. An ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real property located on the north side of Raglan Court, approximately 110 feet east of Raglan Avenue, whose post office address is 1763 Raglan Court, Clearwater, Florida, 33765, together with all right-of-way of Raglan Court into the corporate limits of the city and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date.
I move that we adopt ordinance 9262-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9262-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.2, Ms. Call.
Ordinance number 9263-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real property located on the north side of Raglan Court, approximately 110 feet east of Raglan Avenue, whose post office address is 1763 Raglan Court, Clearwater, Florida, 33765, upon annexation to the City of Clearwater's residential low RL, providing an effective date.
Move to adopt ordinance 9263-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9263-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.3, Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9264-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain real property located on the north side of Raglan Court, approximately 110 feet east of Raglan Avenue, whose post office address is 1763 Raglan Court, Clearwater, Florida, 33765, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as low-medium density residential, LMDR, providing an effective date.
I would move to adopt ordinance 9264-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9264-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.4, Ms. Call.
Ordinance number 9250-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain unaddressed real property located approximately 423 feet south of Nursery Road and 265 feet east of South Belcher Road, and certain real property located approximately 345 feet south of Nursery Road and 265 feet east of South Belcher Road, whose post office address is 2233 Nursery Road, all in Clearwater, Florida, 33764, into the corporate limits of the city and redefining boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date.
Move to adopt ordinance 9250-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9250-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public speak to this motion? Comments, council?
Is that 9258-19? Oh, I'm sorry. It is 9250.
9250.
Yes, 9250.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.5, Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9251-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain unaddressed real property located approximately 423 feet south of Nursery Road and 265 feet east of South Belcher Road, and certain real property located approximately 345 feet south of Nursery Road and 265 feet east of South Belcher Road, whose post office address is 2233 Nursery Road, all in Clearwater, Florida 33764, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as Residential Office General, ROG, providing an effective date.
I move that we adopt ordinance 9251-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9251-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.6, Ms. Call.
Ordinance number 9252-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain unaddressed real property located approximately 423 feet south of Nursery Road and 265 feet east of South Belcher Road, and certain real property located approximately 345 feet south of Nursery Road and 265 feet east of South Belcher Road, whose post office address is 2233 Nursery Road, all in Clearwater, Florida 33764, upon annexation to the City of Clearwater's Office O, providing an effective date.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 9252-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9252-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.7, Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9253-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain unaddressed real property located in the southwest corner of Nursery Road and U.S. Highway 19 North, Clearwater, Florida 33764, together with all abutting right-of-way of Nursery Road into the corporate limits of the city, and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date.
I would move to adopt ordinance 9253-19 on second reading.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9253-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.8, Ms. Call.
Ordinance number 9254-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain unaddressed real property located in the southwest corner of Nursery Road and U.S. Highway 19 North, Clearwater, Florida 33764, upon annexation to the City of Clearwater as U.S. 19 Neighborhood Center, U.S. 19-NC, providing an effective date.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt ordinance number 9254-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9254-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken, agenda item 8.9.
Ordinance number 9255-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain unaddressed real property located on the southwest corner of Nursery Road and U.S. Highway 19 North, Clearwater, Florida 33764, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as U.S. 19, providing an effective date.
I move that we adopt ordinance 9255-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9255-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.10, Ms. Call.
Ordinance number 9256-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real properties located generally north of Drew Street, south of State Road 590, and within 1/4 mile west of North McMullen Booth Road, whose post office addresses are 3046 Grandview Avenue and 800 Moss Avenue, all within Clearwater, Florida 33759, into the corporate limits of the city and redefining boundary lines of the city to include said additions, providing an effective date.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 9256-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9256-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.11, Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9257-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real properties located generally north of Drew Street, south of State Road 590, and within 1/4 mile west of North McMullen Booth Road, whose post office addresses are 3046 Grandview Avenue and 800 Moss Avenue, all within Clearwater, Florida 33759, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater's residential low RL, providing an effective date.
I would move to adopt ordinance 9257-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9257-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.12, Ms. Call.
Ordinance number 9258-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain real properties located generally north of Drew Street, south of State Road 590, and within 1/4 mile west of North McMullen Booth Road, whose post office addresses are 3046 Grandview Avenue and 800 Moss Avenue, all within Clearwater, Florida 33759, upon annexation to the City of Clearwater's low-medium density residential LMDR, providing an effective date.
I move to adopt ordinance 9258-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9258-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.13, Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9259-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real property located generally on the east side of Cardinal Drive, approximately 950 feet north of State Road 590, whose post office address is 1767 Cardinal Drive, Clearwater, Florida 33759, into the corporate limits of the city and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said additions, providing an effective date.
I move that we adopt ordinance 9259-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9259-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.14, Ms. Call.
Ordinance number 9260-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real property located generally on the east side of Cardinal Drive, approximately 950 feet north of State Road 590, whose post office address is 1767 Cardinal Drive, Clearwater, Florida 33759, upon annexation to the City of Clearwater as residential low RL, providing an effective date.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 9260-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9260-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.15, Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9261-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain real property located generally on the east side of Cardinal Drive, approximately 950 feet north of State Road 590, whose post office address is 1767 Cardinal Drive, Clearwater, Florida 33759, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as low-medium density residential LMDR, providing an effective date.
I would move to adopt ordinance 9261-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9261-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Horn, do you have any other business for us?
No, Mayor, I
Miss-
do not.
Aiken.
No, sir.
Closing comments, Mr. Albritton.
I'd just like to perhaps talk about maybe the next work session, the parking study that was done and delivered to us about 3 weeks ago. If that's possible.
Okay. Mr. Hamilton.
I have nothing.
Mr. Polis.
Since we're adding work session items, I've gotten a few phone calls, and then there was a gentleman here tonight to speak of the City Hall progress as far as, and I know we've gotten one-on-ones and it's going to come down, but maybe an update on that conversation where we are as far as that goes, just to refresh our memories and demolition of the City Hall.
Well, that's all tied to your conversation about, RFP and all of that, so.
So that, well, a time
I
frame.
mean, we can put it on the work session, but I don't know what we're gonna say about it until you all have had some conversation around it.
Well, maybe you can refresh my memory then. Were we in agreement? I mean, I know it's all going to come down, but it was going to be, the thing was when, and was it going to be at the expense of a developer, or were we going to do
Well,
that
that's
part?
one of the things that when Mr. Hamilton sort of brought that up the other day, Mr. Delk suggested that let's give him an opportunity to get into the information and have his one-on-ones with us, and then he will be reporting back to us. So let's not try to get ahead of the game here a little bit,
I just
Okay.
recall we weren't necessarily all on the same page.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
We're not, but let's give staff an opportunity, with the transition,
Okay,
to get up to date and meet with us individually,
fair enough.
First.
Fair enough to Michael, yes, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Cundiff.
Thank you, sir. I was going to, I'm impressed every time I think about it. And this week we had on Tuesday night, an advisory board appreciation dinner. And we have, I don't know how many members of our citizenry are on advisory boards, but it's a large number. We have a lot of advisory boards. And I, as a council member, and I'm sure we all agree, we thank all of those who serve on advisory boards. Last night there was a dinner. I couldn't go to it because of my class at St. Pete College, but we had a police department volunteer appreciation banquet. And I tell folks that we can't do what we do here in Clearwater without volunteers, and we have so many volunteers. And I just want to express my appreciation publicly for them. Thank you all.
Let me run through a couple of things that are coming up in the next several days. Tomorrow, May the 3rd, at 10 o'clock in the morning, we're going to have the Druid Road Trail ribbon cutting. That will be... Joel, are you still here? I don't have an address.
It's at the trail.
Yeah, but
It's behind Sam's Club on Druid Road, right where that,
Okay.
road behind Sam's Club.
near Sam's Club on Druid Road and the Duke Energy Trail intersection. Gotcha, thanks. The Clearwater Beach Chamber of Commerce, until it merges with or unites with the Clearwater Regional Chamber of Commerce, is having the Clearwater Beach Taste Fest tomorrow from 6 until 9 at Pier 60 Park. Continuing at Pier 60 Park is the Sunsets for Pier 60 Movies. On May the 10th, which is Friday, the Florida Orchestra is going to do a special concert for us here at Coachman Park, and we would encourage people to attend. We will have a strategic planning meeting on May the 14th here at the council chambers. Is that at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Piggybacking on what Mr. Cundiff had said, to thank all of our volunteers, but we also need to thank not only our volunteers, but our employees. We had several events going on simultaneously this past weekend. We had our Parks and Recreation, Urban Forestry Department employees giving out free trees to Clearwater neighbors as part of our Arbor Day. For 37 years, Clearwater has been a tree city. community, and we all can be very proud of that. In the Gateway area, we had a Hispanic El Dia del Niño festival. It's a Mexican tradition where we celebrate the children and the importance of children. So we want to thank everybody who participated in that event. And also at Westfield Countryside Mall, our police department, our police volunteers, and our solid waste personnel got together for a prescription drug drop-off and a shredding event, which was well attended, even though it had changed positions at the mall. I didn't know that before time. It used to be on the east side of the mall, and it was on the west side, and some people got confused, but it was very successful. And finally, probably one of the most successful events that we have here in Clearwater over the years is the Sugar Sand Festival. And hats off to Steve, Lisa Chandler, and all of their volunteers and the sculptors who made us see the world through the eyes of these sculptors and their sand creations with our beach. It was an exciting event for 3 weekends, well attended, and we appreciate the support of Visit St. Pete Clearwater in supporting that event also. Our next meeting, as I said, our work session will be on Monday, the 13th of May. We will have our strategic planning meeting on the 14th of May, and our next city council meeting will be on May the 16th. Thank you for sharing part of your evening with us. We are adjourned.